What's going on, y'all? Welcome to the Triple Z Podcast. I'm your host, Isaiah Henry. The Philadelphia 76ers will be under the spotlight heading into next season with all the moves they made in free agency, adding Andre Drummond, Eric Gordon, Caleb Martin, signing Kyle Lowry and Kelly Oubre, and having the biggest signing in free agency, which was Paul George to a 4-year, $212 million contract, making him a $50 million player until the age of 38. With Paul George teaming up with Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey, it puts Philly in a position to compete for an NBA title. Not only should Philly be one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference, they should be one of the best teams in the entire NBA. With the big three of Joel Embiid, one of the best players in the world, who's always in MVP conversation, Tyrese Maxey coming off a season where he won Most Improved Player and made his first All-Star team, and Paul George still an elite wing player that can play at an All-Star, All-NBA level. Based off of last season, it was a roller coaster ride for the 76ers. They had a good start to the season. They were 30-8. They were a top 3 seed in the Eastern Conference. Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey were one of the best duos in the NBA. Joel Embiid well on his way to winning his second MVP, and Tyrese Maxey making his case that he should be an All-Star in the Eastern Conference. They also had Nick Nurse in his first year in Philadelphia, who's already established as a championship coach, winning back in 2019 with the Toronto Raptors. And with everything starting so good for Philadelphia in the first half of the season, every team realistically goes through a turning point during the regular season, whether it's at the beginning, the middle, or the very end. And that turning point for the 76ers was Joel Embiid injuring his left knee. 76ers went from a top 3 seed falling all the way down into the play-in situation. They had a 16-27 record without Joel Embiid in the lineup. Tyrese Maxey had to take over as the first option until Joel Embiid made his return, which he did later on in the season, but he wasn't 100%. Yet he was still good enough when he came back for the last 13 games for Philadelphia to get Philly out of the play-in situation and solidify themselves as a 7th seed in the Eastern Conference. Philly goes on to the playoffs. They match up against the New York Knicks, who were the 2nd seed at the time in the first round, and Philadelphia ultimately loses in 6 games to the New York Knicks and gets bounced in the first round. It's never a good feeling to lose in the playoffs, but the 76ers can make serious improvements to their roster with having enough cap space to sign 2 max players in the offseason. We knew Tyrese Maxey was going to sign a max deal after having a breakout season, meaning 1 roster spot available for the max, and Philadelphia has their eyes on Paul George. Back in January, the Clippers extended Kawhi Leonard for 3 years, $150 million, and were reluctant to give Paul George an extension as well, meaning the Clippers had the mindset to get rid of Paul George. At the time, the Clippers were only able to offer Paul George 2 years, $60 million, making him a $30 million player. So Paul George enters free agency. He lands up in Philadelphia, signs a contract for 4 years, $212 million, exactly what he wanted, a max contract. And, with Paul George going to Philadelphia, I think this is the best big three we've seen in a long time. Like, we've seen, Kevin Durant, James Harden, and Kyrie Irving. We've seen Russell Westbrook, LeBron James, Anthony Davis. We've seen Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, Bradley Beal. Like, those big threes, they look good on paper, but when you put it out on the court, it just didn't mesh well. And it seems like a perfect fit for Paul George to team up with Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey. And Paul George has admitted before on his podcast or JJ Redick's podcast that he realized that he can't be the best player on a championship team, meaning that he can't be the first option. So we saw him as a second option in Los Angeles. And, it wasn't all on Paul George why the Clippers didn't win a championship or, didn't go on multiple playoff runs where Kawhi Leonard and Paul George were healthy in the postseason. But, he didn't get the job done as a second option. Even with Kawhi Leonard being the first option, Kawhi Leonard didn't get the job done as the first option and being the best player on the team. And I feel as if in this stage of his career, being at the age of 34, I think he will work really well as the third option. I think this is the best opportunity for Paul George, teaming up with Joel Embiid, an MVP player, and Tyrese Maxey, an emerging superstar on the rise that looks very promising within the next 5-10 years in the league. Even at the age of 34, Paul George is still one of the best wing players in the league. He can score, he can rebound, he can defend, he can do a lot of things and add a lot more productivity, more than Tobias Harris ever did as the third option in Philadelphia. And with Philadelphia filling in those 2 max roster spots with Tyrese Maxey and Paul George, they still had enough cap space to add smaller pieces like Andre Drummond, a good backup big to have for Joel Embiid coming off the bench. He can rebound, he can score in spurts, and he can protect the rim. Eric Gordon, a good scorer to come off your bench as well. Signing Caleb Martin, I thought was a really good signing for them because Caleb Martin has shown when he's on a playoff team, he can be a really good player. I mean, I thought he was going to win Eastern Conference Finals 2 years ago when Miami went against the Boston Celtics in the conference finals. He flat out balled out in Game 7. I thought he was going to win, the finals award, but having Caleb Martin on your team is really good for you as well, especially how Miami was able to offer him a $60 million extension, but he declined it and then ended up with the 76ers signing a 4-year, $32 million contract. So he's signing Kelly Oubre and Kyle Lowry, two players that provided a lot of production for the 76ers during the regular season and the postseason. The way how this team is constructed, having more depth, adding another star, expanding their championship window, the 76ers should be able to compete with any team in the NBA. And I think by far this is the best team in the Joel Embiid era. Mind you, Joel Embiid has played with multiple All-Stars, Jimmy Butler, Ben Simmons, James Harden, but those teams obviously fell short and couldn't even make it past the second round. I think Joel Embiid, the team that's surrounding him right now, that Daryl Morey was able to construct around him, this is the best team in the Joel Embiid era, and then this roster currently has the best chance of making it out of the Eastern Conference. Let me know down in the comment section what's your expectation for the 76ers. Will this be a year where they make it past the second round, or is the big three of Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey, and Paul George fall short next season? Thank you guys for listening to a Triple Z podcast. Please like, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys next time.